Let's talk to this week's blogger. Try and keep up with what's happening in the virtual world of Arsenal support over the course of every week. And this week we're talking to Andrew, who blogs the Arseblog at arseblog.com. I'm sure you're with me so far. Andrew.
Hi there, Tom.
Yeah, how are you, mate?
I'm all right. How are you?
Well, you know, getting there. It's all a bit... Sometimes you just feel like you're here to talk about the Arsenal. Other times you feel like you just need some help.
A shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, exactly. A shoulder to cry on and one thing and another. And it does feel like one of those weeks. Although, actually, in the long run of things, no harm done on Wednesday night because we get a second chance against Porto, unlike every league game that's left this season. But how have you been feeling? What have you been writing this week, Andrew?
Obviously, the Porto game was the main topic of conversation because we didn't have a game last weekend, so everyone was looking forward to the Porto game and then the fallout from that. So it's really been, I suppose, focusing on poor old Lucas Fabianski because there's not much else really to talk about from that performance. It's certainly what all the fans are talking about. All the comments are really about Lucas Fabianski and the nightmare performance that he had. Yeah. But I don't think anybody is writing us off by any means. I think people are pretty confident that we can do the business in the second leg and go on from there. But it was just an extraordinary game.
Yeah, it was. I just wonder, you're talking about Lucas there, and I just wonder whether the other night, Shovel earlier in the show mentioned a couple other afternoons, evenings where Lucas hasn't exactly covered himself in glory. He talked about the FA Cup semi-final against Chelsea. Myself, I just felt like never mind the goalkeeper. I thought the defending in front of Fabianski that afternoon was an absolute disaster, and any goalkeeper might have struggled to cope. Obviously, there was the Drogba's winner, but I thought there were mistakes going on all over the pitch in front of him, and there was also not the most inspiring of performances up at Stoke in the FA Cup. But I just wonder whether Wednesday night, in hindsight, I don't know, maybe you've kind of, whether that's going to be a make or break night in hindsight for Lucas Fabianski.
For Fabianski,
yeah.
I mean, I suppose there has to come a point where the manager looks at Fabianski and has to make a decision about whether he's comfortable in using him in games in the future. Now, I know he only played on Wednesday because of Almunia's injury, but the last few games that he's played, there was the game against Porto, there was the Chelsea game, there was the Stoke game, and maybe it's difficult for him to come into the team sitting on the bench the whole time without going out maybe and playing somewhere, but you need an experienced number two. But I don't know. Arsene Wenger has given him his backing publicly, which is what you would expect, because I don't know that there's a great deal that he can do between now and the end of the season other than, get behind him and try and boost his spirits because, we may need him again. Whether it's make or break, I don't know. But I feel that the goalkeeping position is one that we could improve this summer.
But I mean, actually make or break for Fabianski himself. That, how do you react after... I mean, I'll bring the lads in here, but how do you react after a night like that? All the attention is on you. What do? You either pull a pillow up over your head and just, disappear into the night and say, I'm not good enough to play for Arsenal. Or you say, that's never going to happen to me again. And I just wonder whether that... Wednesday night was so extreme. To be fair, he's chucked one in, and he's made a complete mess of, a back pass situation. Obviously, there's breakdown in communication, but it's down to the goalkeeper to call it in that situation. So he's had a complete nightmare. Whether that night, in hindsight, will be the night when Fabianski said, that's never going to happen to me again. I'm going to be an Arsenal goalkeeper. Or...
Yeah, I mean... There's also that thing about, I don't know, just stepping up to that level, because he was only a couple of weeks ago, he's got another few more years on another new contract extending. He's 24, goalkeepers now maybe reach a peak at 34, maybe he's got 10 years. But we keep hearing about in training, he's meant to be absolutely fantastic.
Arsene Wenger said he absolutely...
My concern is... And I think Andrew, Mr. Blogs, as I'll call him. I hope you're feeling better, mate, by the way. You hit on it yourself today when you're saying, so if, training, great, I've got it down, reflexes, fantastic, I'm tipping them over, I'm out there. Then it's a real game. And what happens this is the thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Is it a mental thing? Yeah.
Well, the thing is, for a goalkeeper, and having been a manager at a club, your number 2 goalkeeper, if they're not playing competitive matches, if they're not playing even reserve games all the time, if they're not playing these games, training, you see a lot of players who are good in training, but goalkeepers, you can't recreate situations. You can set up a game for outfield players, for right backs and wingers, and you can do that. But for a goalie, now for the first goal, his positioning was so. Forget the fact he couldn't put his hands on it. He was 4 yards further out than he should be. If it had been where he should have been, he'd have just picked it up. But in training, you can't always recreate a position of someone running and where you should be because you're doing all your other stuff. The second one, again, is his positioning. It's his starting position. Where does he go back? Biggest criticism on that goal was, if anything's going to be put to Sol Campbell, if he's not sure what the keeper is, most defenders are told to smash it out.
Don't tap
and
it, just
defend the corner or defend the throw-in. So that's probably Sol Campbell when he's sitting there after thinking, that's what I should have done, because he wasn't sure. But the keeper really has run up to him. There's no space. He should have stayed further back, past it. But again, you don't get those in training.
Yeah.
So he's then coming in cold, and now the manager's under pressure because obviously the fans are looking to see what he's going to do with the goalie. So it does create, and this is probably the first time the keeper has had all the press put on him. The other games, it wasn't so much.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Little mistake. But now for a goalkeeper, you have to deal with that pressure, and it will either make him or break him.
Yeah.
But can the manager take that chance again? Because we've lost the battle. Hopefully, we'll win the war because we'll win the second leg. But the Premier games, we won't get second chances. We've got to win all those games. We've got to win at least 10 or 11 of them.
Yeah.
So that's a big decision now for the club, and obviously the manager's got to make them. But
well, in a sense, he hasn't got a decision to make because he can't sign another goalkeeper.
No, but
he's got to make do with what he's got.
He's got to use one of the 3 that he has.
Absolutely. Well, got 4. One of them's learning his trade all right down at Brentford, and ironically, he's probably getting more experience playing in goal for Brentford than any goalkeeper will get sitting on the bench watching Manuel Almunia or watching Lucas Fabianski or whoever you're watching playing out on the. It is a tricky one. Andrew, great to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining us. That's Andrew, blogs at the Arseblog at arseblog.com. Thanks for joining us. More from the virtual world of Arsenal support. Well,
nice.
It's out there, isn't it?
Ooh, nice.
It's everywhere. More from there next Friday, and the Friday after that, and the Friday after that. There's plenty to tune in for on a Friday evening, to be perfectly honest. Make sure you're telling your mates where we are.